Good morning, comrades and friends. It's Michael Laxer, editor of the Left Chapter, coming to you from Toronto on International Workers' Day, May 1st, 2026. And International Workers' Day this year sees us facing a tremendous onslaught from American imperialism and from the international capitalist class globally. These are difficult times, existential times for the revolution in Cuba, which is daily under the threat of the saber rattling of the American imperialists and of the far right exile community in Florida that have whipped up Donald Trump to overtly threaten to take the entire country over and destroy its revolution and leadership. We see that capital is again on the offensive across large parts of the West. A lot of workers' movements are in retreat. But I mean, this is not a time for despair, not a time for despair at all. International Workers' Day is always quite the opposite. It is a time to take stock, to rally, to realize that, we can. We can take on the capitalist class. We can work together. We can fight. We can build again what was built before in the Soviet Union and in other socialist countries. And we can create a society free from inequality, free from exploitation, and free from the capitalist class altogether. Never. I mean, I got to say that never in my lifetime, and I'm 55 years old now, have I thought that the times more obviously called for revolutionary solutions to the problems facing humanity. Inequality and the wealth of the billionaire class has grown to where notions of tinkering with the system, social democratic and liberal notions of taxation of the wealthy, small taxation increases on the wealthy, these are simply a joke in this context. We now are in a situation where only mass mobilization and mass democratic expropriation lays any path towards a future, where we actually can see a path forward for working class solidarity and freedom. I think it's essential to understand that in this context, I mean, we live in an era where after the counter revolutions that swept through Europe in the era of 1989 to 1991 and the global offensive of capital in the wake of that, the international working class movement has been on the defensive, and it's been on the defensive for decades. Now, after 2008 and after the crises around COVID, there has been considerable fight back. I mean, the international working class movement is by no means defeated. It will never be defeated. In the end, the international working class movement will triumph. But I mean, there are periods where we are on the defensive, and this is definitely one of those periods. And it has been one of those periods for a very long time. And after the counter revolutions in Europe and the offensive by the capitalist class throughout the West and North America and Europe and globally, what we have seen is a staggering growth in the power of the capitalist class and in the power of individual billionaires and the capitalist elite. And we've seen a growth in inequality that has not been equaled since the disgraceful Gilded Age of the early 20th century of capitalism in the 1910s and the 1920s. I mean, inequality has grown to a level that's simply shocking. It's difficult to comprehend both the level of inequality within our countries in the West and also globally between the capitalist countries of the exploiting West and the imperialist West and North America and of the rest of the world, of the global South. I mean, it's quite shocking to see the disgraceful power and privilege that have been invested in the hands of such a small group of people throughout the world. And it always bears repeating. I mean, it's essential for people to understand that income inequality is not an aberration of capitalism. It is essential to it. It is fundamental to it. With the threat of the socialist bloc now gone, and with no serious mass anti-capitalist left on the verge of taking power anywhere in the imperialist core or in the Western Western world at the moment, the growth of income inequality and the power of the billionaire class, the wealthy, the CEOs, and the corporations, I mean, they're unchecked, and they are not going to be stopped by band-aid solutions or band-aid tactics like calling for a tiny increase in taxes, for example. I mean, as hard as it may be for some social democrats, for liberals, and certainly even for some who describe themselves as being on the far left or on the socialist left, you know, socialist. I mean, we've gotten to a point where minor changes are not going to be anywhere near enough to build anything remotely akin to a fair economy. I mean, fighting grotesque inequality and the very existence of this predatory billionaire class and predatory corporations requires a rejection of capitalism and of the nature of the capitalist economy as a starting point. As a starting point. Only fundamentally by changing how the economy functions and who controls it and who owns it, who owns the means of production and the natural resources, only by doing this can we hope to tackle not only grotesque inequality, but the existential threat posed by climate change and many other existential threats posed by the capitalist class, and the horrible stains on society and the cruelty and misery that these stains result in. Any serious approach to ending this terrible era of neoliberal capitalist reaction would involve calling for mass democratic nationalizations and expropriations, and for rational economic planning and direct worker ownership over the economy. This is essential for creating a fair, just, equal socialist future in which everyone can participate and in which freedom can actually reign, finally and once and for all, free from the exploitation of the capitalist class and their lackeys, the politicians that do their bidding, that are their corporate ruling board within our so-called democracies in the West, democracies entirely bought and paid for by capital. Here in Canada, the country I live in, many years ago, there was a manifesto called the Regina Manifesto. It was launched by what was actually sort of a socialist, the emergence of a socialist party called the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, predecessor to what is now the entirely pointless social democratic, New Democratic Party here. But interestingly, when they launched when the CCF, as it was known, launched itself with the Regina Manifesto, the preamble at the very beginning of it, they wrote, "We aim to replace the present capitalist system with its inherent injustice and inhumanity by a social order from which the domination and exploitation of one class by another will be eliminated, in which economic planning will supersede unregulated private enterprise and competition, and in which genuine democratic self-government based upon economic equality will be possible. The present order is marked by glaring inequalities of wealth and opportunity, by chaotic waste and instability, and in an age of plenty, it condemns the great mass of the people to poverty and insecurity. Power has become more and more concentrated into the hands of a small, irresponsible minority of financiers and industrialists, and to their predatory interests, the majority are habitually sacrificed. When private profit is the main stimulus to economic effort, our society oscillates between periods of feverish prosperity in which the main benefits go to speculators and profiteers, and of catastrophic depression in which the common man's normal state of insecurity and hardship is accentuated. We believe that these evils can be removed only in a planned and socialized economy in which our natural resources and principal means of production and distribution are owned, controlled, and operated by the people. Now, whatever flaws that the CCF and that flowed out of this manifesto may have had, and it had many flaws. I mean, in the end, it very quickly abandoned the revolutionary promise of this manifesto, and its successor, the New Democratic Party in Canada, is a joke. But whatever flaws the CCF and the subsequent NDP may have had, this preamble, this start to the Regina Manifesto, everything said there remains true. This is the existential struggle of our time, and it is the fight for a society free from the brutality, the cruelty, the misery, and the disgraceful inequality, both within our own countries and globally, created by capitalism, by the capitalist class, by corporations, and by all their political lackeys globally, both in the developed world, quote unquote, and in the global south. We need to see a dramatic change, a change that will finally liberate humanity from this appalling oppression. And this can only come through an entire overthrow of this disgraceful, disgusting, appalling, exploitative system. It is always worth saying and always worth remembering, especially on International Workers' Day, especially on this day of global solidarity between all the workers of the world who united can overthrow this barbaric system, this system that now has put us in a situation where now, more than ever, the only alternatives are between socialism and barbarism, socialism and extinction. It is always worth remembering on this day, International Workers' Day, that the future can be built and will be built by a united working class when the workers of the world unite. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. And this is the launching point, always and forever, for any movement that seeks to liberate humanity from the appalling oppression that we face today, and to end this era of retreat and capitalist retrenchment, and for the working class to go on the offensive again and create the new society that we know will be built, that we know is to come. And again, workers of the world unite. Love and solidarity to all my comrades and friends out there. I hope that you have a tremendous International Workers' Day, whatever you are doing and wherever you are doing it. And onward and forward. I hope to talk to you again soon.